Strategic Marketing Management. I got to make sure my phone's off. How many of y'all stayed up late watching the game or at the basketball game last night? You saw it? Anyone there? You were there. Heartbreaking. So did he beat the buzzer or was it not? Was the call correct?
I do video and he definitely did beat the buzzer. So it is
heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, but very interesting game to watch. I didn't stay up late, but I did watch the replay. So yeah, tough, but I think basketball's fun. I love how fast-paced it is. So I'm Dr. Dora Bach, and I'll tell you a little bit about me, and we'll get into this course a little bit. We'll actually cover a little bit of content today, but I'm just going to start off by passing an attendance sheet out because I know your program requires attendance. So please just initial next to your name or check next to your name, something, let me know that you're here. And if you see your name, like if you go by something different than what's indicated, please just go ahead and make note of that, okay? I love it that you have your name tents out. Those are very, very helpful. So please keep those out throughout, this semester so that I can call on you. Just makes it easier for me to remember your names. So a little bit about me. My friends jokingly might call me Professor Explorer since my name is Dora and I've never met another Dora. I was named before Dora the Explorer was popular or came about. I grew up in Wisconsin. So if I sound a little funny, it's because I have a little bit of a hybrid accent. So I moved to Louisiana in 2008, and I finished my PhD there in 12. And so I've stayed south ever since. I love the southern winters. So I was at LSU for 4 years. I taught at Georgia Southern, if you're familiar with that school. I taught there for 3 years. And then the job opened up at Auburn in 2015, and so I've been at Auburn ever since in 2015. So I am the department chair of marketing. So outside of teaching and being involved with you folks, I help run the marketing department, which right now we have a little over, I think it was 800 to 900 majors and probably about 400 minors. And so we are right behind finance. Finance is the most popular major in the college, and we're behind them. So very, very busy in that regard. I like to research mainly customer decision making. So why customers make certain decisions, what drives their decisions, and largely I like to research how emotions influence our decisions as customers. And I'll give you a great example of one. So if some of you noticed on the syllabus, I made a slight change. Was it yesterday or the day before? Where I originally had no class listed next Monday. But we are going to have class next Monday. I was supposed to go to NRF, the National Retail Federation's big show. Okay, anyone here familiar with that? So it's a major conference, over 40,000 people probably attend. It's in New York City. You have like CEOs, the CEO from Walmart probably talking, or major retailers. Very, very fascinating conference. But I'll tell you, I was watching those flu rates, which, are you guys watching that? I really hope you all stay healthy. And I thought, oh my goodness, my luck. Is the beginning of the semester, I'm going to get on this airplane when flu rates are highest, what are they, over 3 decades now or something like that for over 40 states? And I thought to myself, that's not a good decision. Not at the beginning of the semester. My luck, I'm probably going to get sick. So what emotion likely led me to say, I'm not going? Fear, right? So I decided, I was like, you know what, it's the beginning of the semester. I don't want to have to, if I come back and I'm sick and I can't have class then too, this is going to not be a good start. But that said, you can't always prevent the flu. So please, if you get sick, whatever, please stay home. this class is recorded, so you'll be able to hear and see what's going on. And that way you're protecting others and helping prevent the spread of germs. So that said, so I like to study customer emotions, how they drive decision making. I also like to study buyer-seller interactions. So looking at the interactions between customers and employees. Also, I can think of an employee as being like a bot, like you might engage with a chat bot for a firm or with a firm online. So I like to look at employee customer interactions. Those are kind of my main areas that I like to study. And outside of working, I have 2 little boys. Their names are Bo and Easton. They're 6 and 8. They keep me very, very busy. And they were very disappointed in Auburn's loss last night, too. So that's a lot about me. Why don't we go ahead and get into some of the material and just cover some syllabus information first. So here you can see on the home page a little bit about the course and how you can access me. Because this course is streamed online as well, please indicate to me what section you're in when you email me. So if you're online or in person, that sometimes just helps me better understand your situation, for whatever you're emailing me about. So I'm here mostly every day. Email me if you want to come, set up a time to talk with me or interact through Zoom if you're online. I'm happy to meet with you. And I'm fairly flexible. When it comes to the syllabus, let's talk about a few things. I know you all can read, and so please take the time to read through this thoroughly. So to begin with materials, the textbook is with VitalSource. It should be working. I know the university switched from RedShelf to VitalSource recently, so if you have any issues, please never hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. In this course, there are cases that we will be reading and assessing. You'll want to read all of the cases because the case content is fair game for the exam, even if you're not assigned to that particular case. So you'll want to download those and read those. Lecture slides. I'll provide slides. You can access those by either hitting the Files tab here. Oops, not people. And going to the lecture slides, and it'll be there. Also, if you want to watch the Panopto recordings, like for instance, you're sick, or you're out on a job interview or whatever, and for the online folks, it's under the Panopto video recording, so it'll be here. We have this being recorded right now, so it may not appear until about 12:15, 12:30 when the class ends. So, course materials there, and computer requirements. This year, I am just going to use Canvas exams with the Respondus Lockdown browser. I have a dummy exam up there, so that's for you to be helpful, to help you make sure that the Respondus Lockdown browser is in fact working on your end. So please make sure you have that. So videos, we talked about those. So let's talk a little bit more about the assignments. Exams. We're going to have short exams this semester. By that, I mean probably 15 questions, 30 minutes. You're going to need to know your stuff, but they're going to be short, and there's going to be a few of them, more than just a midterm and a final. So there's exams here. They are open note, open book. And though I say they're open note, open book, again, you don't have unlimited time to complete them. So you will need to know your stuff. Now, what's on the exam is stuff we talk about in class, is stuff from the case that gets presented, and even guest speakers. We have a few great guest speakers coming, some that I'm inviting for the very first time, so I hope they work out, and I'll talk about those in just a minute when I get to the schedule. You'll also be allowed a calculator too. So eventually we might do some ROI calculations, maybe some customer lifetime value calculations, and so those might appear on a few of these exams. So cases. There are several of them throughout the term, though each team is only graded on one case. There is an optional case at the end, which can only enhance your grade if you want to complete it. You certainly can. If you don't want to, you don't have to, okay? But read through this in terms of delivery details, etc. So for the case, you'll provide a written report and a presentation. For the in-person teams here, we're going to be presenting in person in class. For the online teams, you will need to record your presentation and share your recorded presentation as a file in Canvas. Now, please note that you can use PowerPoint, you can use Canva, whatever you want to develop your PowerPoint presentation. That said, when you upload your files to Canvas, I need it to be a file and not just a Canva link or a OneDrive link. Sometimes those links aren't as easy as what you would think, especially if you don't have the internet, if you want to download them offline or whatever, just sometimes they can have a mind of their own and they don't work as intended. So I need it to be an actual file, okay, that is uploaded to Canvas. So please read through the details of that at your convenience. Please, for your cases in your project, always indicate who's in your group and their percent contribution. Hopefully everybody's 100, meaning that hopefully everybody is contributing to the overall project equally. But sometimes life happens and you can't. Maybe you have a family situation, your car breaks down, who knows, you don't have internet access, and you have to not contribute, someone has to pick up your slack. That unfortunately is life, so sometimes they may not be 100%, but hopefully that's not the case. There are some page limits for your case reports. I've increased these this semester. I will say though that oftentimes thorough but concise reports are around 8 pages, but I have upped it to 12. Please note that that's your case analysis, like your text response only. It does not include the references, the figures, the tables, anything else that you create beyond the text. Okay. Course project. So outside of exams, your one case, maybe 2 if you choose to do the optional, you're also going to have an overarching course project. And I've designed this project to make it so that hopefully you get what you want out of this project. So there's 2 options for the course project. You can either present a marketing plan for a company of your choice. So you would work with your team on developing a marketing plan. And we'll talk about marketing plans early on this semester. You know, they're plans created to accomplish a variety of different objectives. It could be a promotional plan, it could be a new product development plan, etc. They don't all look alike. But there are some specific requirements if you wish to complete a marketing plan. Read through those, and there's a template there that addresses the different types of content you should include in your plan if you choose this particular project. I also have a couple of examples. If you go in the Files tab and you click under the Marketing Project, these are just examples. Marketing Project. Here's a couple from Lint and one from Brown-Forman. Just a couple of examples. But don't let that constrict your thinking. I'm always afraid when I provide examples that it might restrict your thinking and you might think that's the only way. That is not the only way. So with the course project, outside of a marketing plan, you also can read and present on a popular press book. Now, marketing, I think, is one of the most diverse business disciplines out there. We could talk about digital marketing. We could talk about marketing research and analytics. We could talk about customer or consumer decision making. We could talk about public policy and marketing. We could talk about product development, promotions, advertising, retailing, supply chain issues fall under marketing as well. And so there's many different aspects to marketing. And below, I have listed some possible books for you to consider. And underneath each link for a book, I have a brief description of kind of what the book's about, okay? And as you can see, these are all on a very, even branding, I didn't mention that before, a lot of different topics. And so if you find one of interest of you, or you find hopefully a few, there is a team preference survey. I have it highlighted there. I also have it highlighted in the module for this week. In this team preference survey, after you've reviewed the content here, if you click this survey, you're going to fill out some basic information. Your name, what section you're in. Particularly for the online group, I'm asking what time zone you're in, so that way I can hopefully pair you with other team members who are in the same time zone. And then I'm going to ask you which of these course projects you prefer. And so if you click the marketing plan project, the next question is going to be, are there other people that you prefer to work with? And so you can type those names out if you know people in the class that you want to work with, and then hit submit. That's all that happens if you hit the marketing plan project. If you hit the popular press project, hold on, I'm just going to say I need to fill this out. So if I hit the popular press project, you're going to get kind of a drag and drop question here. And so here are those books again, and you simply just drag them to kind of indicate your preferences. And my hope will be that you're going to get your most preferred or your moderately preferred book if you choose this particular project. So my GA will download this data. I can't remember exactly when I said it was due, but it would be on Canvas here. Let's see here. Due the 11th, okay? So let's see, the 11th is 8, 9, 10, what is that, Sunday? So probably on Monday, she'll download the data and start building teams based on your information here you share in the team preference survey. So please look that over, and that's your homework for the first week of class. Okay. So as you can see here too, I want to mention that I'm pretty transparent in terms of how I'm grading and what I'm looking for. So there's a project grading rubric here. You can see what I mean by basics, visual design clarity, supported and completeness, and presentation style. Again, this is a marketing course, and it's very important, not only what you say, yes, content is important, but how you say it. Okay, so please be persuasive, sell your work, both in your presentation and your overall course project and your case study. And I'll mention this to you for the cases as well. Each team gets 3 weeks to work on these cases. And I do that because I prioritize fairness, and I want to make sure, to me it's not fair if a student or a student team had all semester to work on this case that's due at the end of the term. That's not fair for the first few groups, that have to go earlier in the term. So I have a firm rule here that each group has 3 weeks to work on these. Now that said, I am really transparent on the types of questions that students will be asked to address. So you'll get those once the 3-week window is open. But I also spell out a grading rubric again for the cases. And the big thing with the cases is simply that your responses are supported and complete. Meaning that you're not just saying, oh, Lululemon should drop these product categories. Okay, what do you mean by that? What product categories? When? What's the timeline? How are you going to do that? You know, it needs to be thorough. And why? Why those particular product categories, if that's what your team is suggesting. So that's the big one here. But again, you can see I'm looking at some other issues as well. Okay, so there'll be a set of questions that will be different for each of the cases, and you'll be assigned to answer those particular questions for the case. Teams, be a good team member. You don't want to be fired. You can read about that. Talked about the team preference survey and some grading information. This is a graduate level course, so I expect graduate level work. Should be no surprise there. I also want to point out something here. Okay. What's wrong with this sign?
It's misspelled.
They spelled careers wrong. Okay?
Lights going out.
Oh, the light's going out too. Yeah, not good signage. Okay. I took this picture. This wasn't in Auburn. Okay, so this was in a different city, different state actually. Not Wisconsin either. Anyhow, you see this and you see the misspelling. What does that make you think of Wendy's or the people that work there?
Competency.
Competency, dumb. It may not entice you to apply for the job. Now, I realize most of you aren't here to go work at Wendy's, but I think it's a good example of when you see these simple mistakes, they actually can have a meaningful impact on customer perceptions. And so mistakes happen, you know, we're human, but use software to spell check your work. You have teams of like 4, so you have multiple sets of eyes on your work. Please review things with a critical eye because, you know, when consumers look at, let's just say you got a bottle of ibuprofen in front of you and they spell something wrong on the label. What do you think? Question, is this authentic? Is this actually ibuprofen? Is it effective? You know, like, so these minor errors actually can have a very meaningful impact. And so please, please thoroughly read and evaluate your work. Okay, let's see here. Okay, class schedule, going back down. So we're going to follow this schedule here at the bottom. And please note that originally I had no class scheduled for the 12th, simply because I was supposed to be in New York, but that's not happening now. So we are having class next week. We will not have class the following week because of the holiday. A couple of things I want to point out. I tend to have a to-do list on the right-hand side. And we have a couple of guest speakers that I'm really excited about. First, it's hard to count Piper as a guest speaker because she works at Auburn, but she's going to be coming in talking about some library resources available to you. I also want to point out that if you click library resources right here on Canvas, you can access, you know, a bunch of secondary databases that will be helpful to you or should be helpful to you as you either develop your marketing plan or you work on your cases. So we have her, she's going to be coming in. And then for the first time, I'm inviting Gordon Wade, who, a very interesting guy. I met him this summer. We went for lunch, and he told me he moved here and has no ties to Auburn, but would love to get involved. And so we were having lunch at Hamilton's and just chatting about things. And he is a retired vice president and general manager of Nestle Purina. He has a lot of experience, if I remember, in branding and obviously marketing. And so I'm very excited to have him come in. I've asked him to talk a little bit about his experience with strategic planning, when things went well, when things didn't go well. And so I'm really excited that a non-Auburn alum wants to get engaged. So that should be fun because he was there for, I think, over 25 years. Then we have another guest speaker coming in later in the term, Mike, who is the departing CEO of Bonnie Plants. He is on the verge of retirement and going to get his DBA at Florida to be a marketing faculty member. So he is finishing up his graduate degree to finish or begin a second career. And so he's going to be coming in, and I think he's going to talk about a lot of things related to perhaps pricing, marketing, planning, our 4 Ps, target marketing, etc. But are you familiar with Bonnie Plants? So they are a plant company. So if you go to Lowe's or to Home Depot, a lot of the plants that those home improvement stores sell are Bonnie Plants. So Bonnie Plants produces these plants, sells them to retailers who sell them to the end consumer. They actually are headquartered in Opelika, and I have a couple of prior students working there, one in fact in marketing. And so outside of Mike and Gordon, I think we have one more, Fred Blatchford, who was the area vice president and director of sales at Johnson & Johnson. He was with them for 25 plus years. He now is an Auburn alum. I don't believe Mike nor is Gordon an Auburn alum, but Fred certainly is. He's an actively involved member of our alumni council and a very entertaining individual. I'm sure he's going to do fabulous, but he'll talk to you about his experience in sales. A lot of times when I talk to people, they're afraid of sales or they think they have some perhaps negative stereotypes. And my hope is that his presentation might change your perspective. Professional selling is a real career. These people sometimes are so well trained that, Fred could probably do the operation on the patient if something happened to the doctor. Okay, because professional salespeople know their equipment, they know their products so well. They're so heavily skilled, and oftentimes they make a ton of money. So, yeah. So anyhow, I think it'll be really interesting to have you meet with him. So outside of that, again, I just want to mention that the cases, when you see them, for instance, like the Starbucks case here listed, that again, the in-person groups who are assigned that case, they'll be presenting in class that day, whereas for the online folks, they will have a recorded presentation that will be shared on Canvas. And let me find my exam. Okay, so I think that's about it. Any questions on the syllabus? No, pretty self-explanatory. So again, a lot of detail in there. I don't mean to be information heavy, but please go through that, read through it, and if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out or ask in class next week. Now, I tried something new before we get into chapter 1 here, which I have that again if you go to files and lecture slides. It should be there. But I am experimenting with this software called Mentimeter. And let's see here. I created this the other day. And I want to see if this works. That doesn't work. Share. I think that's what I need to do. So I am going to. You all can get your phones out. Can you try scanning this and seeing if this works? Now for the online group, unfortunately, I believe this only works in real time. So if you are watching this at, let's just say 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening, I don't believe this will work for you and the results will be different. But are you getting a survey? Okay, awesome. Will you answer at least the first question? Okay? Let's see if that works. Anyone still need this up? Good. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay. So I wanted to know a little bit about you. Okay, so we're seeing some in marketing. So tell me, for those in marketing, what area of marketing interests you? What would you like a career in? Yeah.
Consumer behavior.
Okay, consumer behavior. Right. What else? Who else? There's a couple others. No one else? Okay, maybe there's some online folks participating in this. Very well might be, given the numbers. So no one else in marketing? Don't be shy. It's okay. I don't bite. What about the others? What's represented here?
Project management or operations, that side of the house.
Okay.
Insurance.
Insurance. See, I think of insurance as marketing, but just like, are you like an insurance rep?
I used to do sales.
Okay.
And I want to do commercial insurance like brokerage.
Okay. I still think of that as marketing. It's people skills. Yep.
Sports admin.
Sports. Okay. We have a growing number of students getting into sports, so that's very cool. What's your favorite team?
I work with the Auburn men's basketball team, so
Oh, that's why you were at the game last night. Okay. Still heartbreaking. Anyone else in the other? Yeah.
Risk management.
Okay, risk management. Anyone else? Okay. Well, great. So a lot of finance folks, a few marketing, a few supply chain. I figured no one would be in accounting given our master's of accountancy program, but I felt like I had to include it because it would be weird not to say accounting. But awesome, very cool. So let's go to this one now. What comes to mind when you hear the word marketing? You can type that in ads, sales, creative. I shouldn't have shared this with you. I feel like this could influence what you write. Okay, looks like it's slowing down. So look at what we all have up there. I would say it makes sense a lot. So the larger the word, it means more people are like talking or writing that as a topic. So sales and advertising are most thought of, but I would also say buying and selling ads goes into advertising. Creative is also sometimes as obviously linked to advertising. A lot of different things going on, okay? And I think this is illustrative of how throughout this course, you're gonna learn about marketing, but this really is, a very broad marketing course, and we can't get into all the details of, certain aspects of marketing. But it is a very, very, very broad discipline, and I think that's, illustrative given what you thought of here. So let's get into this. So, slideshow. So chapter 1 in your textbook is just titled Marketing in Today's Economy. And in the slides here, you'll see that I include some content that's in your textbook, but I also include content that's not in your textbook. And so I expand upon different things. So the goals of chapter 1 are really to define marketing, understand what are some major marketing decisions and activities, and also talk about some of the challenges and opportunities in today's world as they pertain to marketing. So to begin, we're gonna do one more Mentimeter and then we're taking a break with Mentimeter. Do you have if you go to that next one, if you still have it up on your phone, it asks you what companies come to mind or something when you think of having effective marketing strategies. Did it work or did I close out of it too soon?
You have to hit the next one.
Okay, good. I see movement. That means it's working. Okay. So now that we're getting a few names up there. Oh, Coca-Cola. I learned a fun fact the other day about Coke. Did you know Diet Coke has more caffeine in it than regular Coke? I did not know that until the other day. Okay, so now that we have a few firms up there, I want you to chat with some folks around you. Pick a couple of companies, 2 or 3, and talk about, and if there are other firms you think of that aren't listed on this slide, that's fine too. But I want you to take a minute to talk about what is it that makes them have effective marketing strategies. You know, why are they coming to mind? Okay, so let's just say 3 minutes to talk about that.
Yeah.
You guys ever get on TikTok and look at the Better Buy brand? Please do so. It is so bad.
have TikTok.
But they were like just absurd.
They picked a really good one.
Brain rot in a nutshell.
Brain rot in a
I think we all know why.
Yeah.
Who
Said Toyota, because they make a great product and that does all the marketing
There's
for
these
them.
kids that were like,
Being a Toyota salesman is
That's a
not
cheap
that
discount.
And
They just
talk
talk
about Lockheed Martin.
I know.
Like shit.
I mean, they literally have one customer.
So annoying.
Exactly. Other governments too. Other governments too.
Yes, is not.
Yeah, but I mean,
You know, Coke.
75% of the, and Israel.
Yeah, they popularized, like, they literally,
I was thinking just curious who chose State Farm. I just, not both.
This is by the official
figure out
Better Buy.
Anything where any company where they understand
is red.
The official Better Buy.
Stuff. Before Santa was like all kinds of colors.
I don't take Daily Wire. That's what got me into doing it. Just happened.
This is their entire.
I know Casey, because if it was
If I go through it,
they used to advertise
stupid stuff.
so like
This
7 years ago is when I came.
The reason I got 2.6 billion followers.
There's a reason why they got 22 million views.
It's so much better than I don't like that.
But Chick-fil-A, I mean, pretty strong, like,
When am I gonna be out? That's the question. Any major.
fly from Atlanta to Atlanta.
How many Nutter Bars have you bought from them?
Yeah.
Like, you watch.
I think they had.
No, it's the one where I
yeah.
Care of it.
The one I've been wearing.
I don't know why I just looking at
I think you do.
I sent all my.
This ring is new though. I just bought it. I'm joking.
I thought you were.
really watching it.
You know, there was
I
think
I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen you wear West.
they didn't have an
Yeah, it's in that.
and so they just had an commercial for 2 seconds. So it was like Doritos. And that's it. Kanye's just hilarious. Have you seen that one? He's like, I didn't have enough budget to create a commercial, so I just
No, they don't.
so I had to pay for this commercial. It's just him talking about the uses
That's what they made their last
Super Bowl commercial?
Did they even make anything?
I ran out of
They,
money
like,
for the
came out, like,
ad,
June
so
with, like,
here it is.
So
Your computer images.
Like your
One
shop
of their cars.
Remember that
They
when
were
they
down
really-
today.
Not this year when he made
You
it.
spent $17 million on.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you less about
I don't know. Did they make anything?
that's the only one I've seen made.
It's back to next year.
They switched like all electric, like.
I mean, we went to the city for like dinners and stuff sometimes, and then there was one day we did like a day with him.
You got one of those.
I did not.
Wait, it's back on there.
Should they just take this
Okay.
marketing job and
That was the only.
Y'all ready for chat?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna pick on this group that's right in front of me. So do we have a designated speaker who wants to mention the companies they picked and why they thought they were effective?
Want to me? Okay, we talked about Apple, Nike, sort of this wide reach and consistent sort of approach to their marketing. Mainly Apple. You know who Apple is. Good quality, consistent. So, yeah.
So you know, as a customer, you know what to expect.
Yes, and
Okay.
sort of you know the brand. It's like the logo. Like, oh, it's an Apple.
Okay. It's memorable and they meet your expectations, so to say. Okay, great. And what about Nike? Again, consistency too? Or
Well, that's yes or no because we had a class of strategic analysis where they sort of changed going back into focusing on athletics. But that like the swoosh that's recognizable,
okay.
and it's also international.
We also talked about partnerships, how they've been able to, they recently partnered with Skims, Kim Kardashian's brand. So
Uh-huh.
partnerships with brands like that and athletes makes them.
Good partnerships. Yeah. And were you gonna add something?
Oh, okay. Speaking on the partnership, just recently in this month, Nike also partnership with a local company back in my home country, Ghana. And the company is Free the Youth. They designed the Air Jordan 1.
The Air Jordan 1.
Yeah, limited edition version for 2026.
Okay.
It has really, that partnership has really introduced Nike to the market in Ghana, and people are talking about it, and it's all over social media.
Yeah. Great brands. Who else? What about Will? We're gonna pick on you again.
Sure. So we talked about Chick-fil-A. We also talked about Coca-Cola, and we actually mentioned Buc-ee's as well. I will say with Chick-fil-A and Buc-ee's, they're kind of leading on like innovation, optimization, trying to be the most efficient and have pretty strong like brand values. And then with Coca-Cola, they're a pretty, like large conglomerate, and we had talked about how like expansive their marketing is. I had an example. I saw a few weeks back the story like the original Santa, the red Santa was based solely on Coke, just pushing out millions upon millions of dollars in advertising, and it just stuck from there. So those were the brands we discussed.
And now I think, didn't they create this AI ad for the first
They did.
time for this? Yeah. But great companies. What else? Kevin, were you gonna add something?
I guess we also talked to Apple, and how a big part of Apple's thing was the idea that it's not just that they would create products that customers wanted, they would create products that customers didn't even know they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Or I remember thinking about my iPod when I got it, and it was like 8 gigs, and I was like, who has 8 gigs of music?
Mm-hmm.
They created a need, and then I filled my iPod with 8 gigs worth of music.
Yeah.
And then the thing with Coke, we talked about Coke, was the idea that so much of their marketing now is not even the idea of trying to convince you to drink Coke because of XYZ. It's about associating it with positive memories
Mm-hmm.
or positive ideas. And then also the idea that literally joke that you're not a country if you don't have Coke, because Coke is literally in every country except for North Korea. You can get a Coke anywhere.
But I think you're right about those positive memories. I'm thinking the Coke commercials right at the movie theater. It's about having a good time at the movie theater. Or do they have one about getting proposed or maybe date with a
night
Coke?
stuff, yeah.
Family events, Christmas time with Coke.
It's all about the idea, they're not telling me drink Coke because it tastes better than Pepsi. It's just, aren't you thirsty? You should have a Coke.
Have fun with it, right? Great. What else? Who over here? Got to pick on this side of the classroom. Clayton. I'm going to pick on Clayton. He hasn't said anything.
Kind of going off the Nike topic, so companies can leverage, like athletes are big celebrities to their advantage. That kind of makes it more appealing to the younger audience that might be into music or sports, and so that's kind of like strategies that big companies like Nike or Apple might leverage to entice a certain audience to their company or to their product.
Yeah, another thing we were talking about too is those companies like Nike and Apple, they had advertisement within the product itself. So like Apple, you have the Apple phone, Nike's got the logo. Like those are some things that certain other brands, like especially like insurance brands, don't benefit from. Like they have to pay for you to get in front of your face, but people just holding the product is an advertisement for them. So it gets them ahead.
That whole public consumption element. Yep. Great. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on a little bit then. So your book has a definition of marketing included, and this is from the American Marketing Association, which is the largest professional organization in the marketing discipline. And it defines marketing as the activity, set of institutions, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. So the first thing I want to mention is that the definition of marketing has changed over time. Marketing thought is not stagnant. Marketing thought changes, marketing practice changes. And so this definition has evolved. I also want to call out a couple of key things mentioned in this definition is, one, how many of you have taken a marketing class before? Did you talk about your 4 Ps?
Yes.
4 Ps. What are those 4 Ps?
Price.
Price,
Placement.
product, I heard someone say placement, and promotion. Yes. And so if you think about these 4 Ps, which are one way of grouping marketing activities, is you can think about creating as products, but I perhaps should say, when I use the word products, think offerings in general. Because products, people tend to think of as being tangible, but marketers market things well beyond just tangible goods. And so think of products more broadly as offerings. We also have communicating, which here you can think of this as promotion. We have delivering, which you can think of as placement, marketing channels, supply chain issues. Okay, how do we get those goods to the customer? And exchanging, I like to think of as price. Because at the end of the day, in order for an exchange to occur, you usually exchange money for receipt of the good. So a couple of things also I want to mention about this is, so you can see those 4 Ps, and marketing, when done right or done really well, is this idea that the product or the offering sells itself. Okay, and I think that's kind of what some of your groups were talking about, particularly when it comes to like Apple, is that for some products, when a marketer or an organization knows consumers so well, they know what consumers want, which consumers might not even know themselves what they want, they create these offerings that people just naturally buy. And so you don't need to engage in having significant marketing expenses in terms of promotional dollars, because the product's just taking off on its own through word of mouth and people talking about how great the product is. You can also think of marketing as meeting customer needs or wants profitably, right? If a company is not profitable, if it doesn't have sales, it's not going to exist. So while I think all of these other business disciplines are important, like accounting, finance, all these other disciplines are great, if you don't have sales, those jobs aren't going to exist. And so marketing is so critical, and I would largely argue that it is the most important function of an organization. But again, it's not just promotion. It's about creating these offerings that have value. It's about creating things that people want, okay, that help them live their lives, okay? So not just advertising, not just sales. And we've talked about a variety of different activities that marketing includes. And I want to mention that a key term in this definition is value. I want you to think for a minute, what products have value to you? What products are valuable to you? Anyone want to offer an example?
My phone.
Your phone? Okay, so why is your phone valuable to you?
Because you use it for everything. It's communication and entertainment.
Okay, communication and
Buying
entertainment. Okay, I love it. What else?
My laptop.
Your laptop, okay?
Because I use it for coursework, other essential applications and personal work and stuff.
Okay, so, and I would say a lot of the benefits the same as the phone. So when we think about value, a simple way of thinking about value is benefits minus costs. Okay? So what does a customer reap versus what do they give up? And so marketers should be producing offerings that have a lot of benefits that outweigh the costs. And benefits can be thought of, and sometimes we even break this down into hedonic value versus utilitarian value. So benefits can be of, go away thing. Okay. Can be hedonic or utilitarian. So in this case, if we get to the phone, okay? Hedonic benefits are, you can think of these as being like the emotional benefits of using a particular offering. So in this case with the phone, you mentioned entertainment, right? Okay, so entertainment or enjoyment, fun. I also might I don't want to say if it makes you feel safe, but you feel lost without it probably. And so there's emotions tied to that. It's a terrible heat. And then for utilitarian, think of these as practical. So hedonic deals with more of the emotional benefits. Utilitarian deals with more of the practical utility of the product. So functional type benefits. So it helps you get things done, helps you stay organized, helps you do your coursework and make sure you're not late on anything. Okay. So both benefits are important. And in some cases, the hedonic benefits might outweigh the utilitarian benefits or vice versa. Okay? It's important for marketers to understand what are the benefits that customers are looking for. How can we create products that have certain benefits that ultimately end up creating a valuable offering that people want? So I also want to mention here that marketing involves a lot of research in terms of knowing your customer. Okay? and figuring out, benefits that they're seeking for. What are they willing to give up? What is the price they're willing to pay to? How do customers want their products? There's a variety of issues that get researched, and I believe the marketing research industry is now about probably $140 billion. Okay, so it's a very, and probably forecasted to grow. I would say it's a very significant industry. I have a few students who have jobs in the research world too. And to me, it's very fascinating to understand why people are buying and doing the things that they do. Now, when we talk about marketing and who engages in marketing, I also want to mention that firms don't just market their offerings or what they're selling. They're also going to be marketing their reputation, right? Their brand. What does the organization stand for? And this is particularly important for mature industries, okay? Products that have been around for a very, very long time. So, for example, your washers. What are some top brands? I know we all do laundry here. Let's hope, right? What are some top brands? And when you go to buy a washer, what brand might you look for? Someone says Maytag. Me too.
GE.
GE. Okay, so Maytag, if you look at the American Customer Satisfaction Index, which ranks companies based on how satisfied customers are with particular brands in given industries, Maytag is often at the top. What does Maytag market themselves to be? When you think of Maytag, what comes to mind?
Reliability.
Reliability, quality, durability. It's going to last. It's going to get the job done. It's powerful, right? They had the Maytag Man. I think that's who they have, right? For a long time. And I think their slogan is something like "What's on the inside matters," like to again indicate the quality of their products. Again, washers and dryers have been around for decades, but yet they've done a really good job of marketing their brand as being a quality product that it continues to rise to the top. Another example I can think of is Tom's shoes, right? Shoes have been around for a long time. It can be very difficult in mature markets to continue to survive. And, they've largely, I would think, survived because of their focus of society at large and how they give back. And so that's actually one of the most, I would say, the newest change probably to this definition of marketing is that we're not looking just at value for customers. We're looking at value for our clients, our partners. Some of you talked about that when you were talking about other organizations that have effective marketing strategies. But also we're talking about benefiting society as well. And so that's become a huge issue and one way to differentiate yourself in these mature markets, just like how Tom's has done that. So who engages in marketing? Certainly for-profit firms, but who else? Who else engages in marketing?
Universities.
Universities, definitely. Politicians. Nonprofit organizations. I guess universities largely fall under that, though there are some for-profit schools. Celebrities, right? So a lot of different folks engage in marketing. So what is marketed? Well, a lot of things are marketed. So goods, I like to think of goods as things that are tangible. You can touch them. So these are the products that you're buying that you can take home with you. Services. Services are intangible. What are some services that come to mind? Yep. Power. Okay. What else?
Consulting.
Consulting, yes, in the B2B world. By B2B, I mean businesses selling to other businesses. So like Auburn University working with a consulting firm to figure out where they're gonna put the next business building. Okay, or working with an architecture firm to design the building. Okay. There's one example there. So services are things you can't touch. Could be banking, internet service, ideas. What comes to mind when we talk about marketing ideas? And these are not mutually exclusive, I should say that as I go down this bullet list. Ideas could be things like, I forgot who ran the Kindness Matters or Be Kind to People. There was some campaign that recently was about kindness. Don't drive drunk. You can think of those kind of campaigns. So they're marketing ideas for you to do something. Marketing information. Okay, usually this is oftentimes about marketing a website where you can find information. I think about Indeed. If you think of those commercials, you go to Indeed to find jobs. And so they're marketing going to Indeed to get this information, or consumer reports. Digital products. These are products you can download or listen to digitally. So what come to mind here?
Repair manuals.
Repair manuals. Okay. What are you repairing?
A car.
Okay, good for you.
Streaming.
Streaming, yes, certainly streaming. Okay, could be taxes. It's about to begin tax season. Oh, fun. People. Celebrities, politicians, athletes, right, all fall in this category. Places. What commercials come to mind when I say the marketing of places?
Where we're gonna be going, Dubai. They do
Oh.
commercials.
Yeah, okay,
Vegas.
for those of you going on the international trip.
Cruise ships.
Cruise ships.
Is it California or something?
Yes, definitely those tourism ads. They have them for Orange Beach, Alabama, which I love going to. Disney World, Super Bowl's about to happen, right? So places, and I would say experiences and events, largely similar, right? Like going to have a Disney experience. Properties, these are real or financial properties, so like real estate or stocks. And then organizations. Again, this gets at branding. Enhancing your organization's reputation and what consumers think of when they hear your name. So again, nonprofit and for-profit firms engage in marketing. So, as I mentioned, marketing changes. And here with this slide, I'm just illustrating to you how marketing has evolved over the years. And so if you think in the time of Henry Ford, that's largely when we lived in what was thought of as a production concept era. I like to think of the Field of Dreams quote where it says, if you build it, they will come, right? So it's this idea that firms produced what they could produce and people would buy it. And the goals here were largely to have cheap, efficient production. How can we build something efficiently? And then product availability. How do we make it available to consumers? And so we had the assembly line and a lot of different, technological advances that led to sort of this production concept era and the focus on widespread availability of offerings. But it was narrowly minded on focusing more on what firms could produce. And I think, don't quote me on it, but he had mentioned creating products that people don't know that they want, okay? And I think that there's a quote related to Henry Ford that if I would have asked customers what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. So they didn't really think of a vehicle, but yet Ford, was the pioneer in creating vehicles. So we had the production concept era, that's focusing on efficient production, widespread availability. And a natural extension or outgrowth of that is the selling concept era. And this is what led to firms to focus on selling products that they could produce. And so the focus was largely on using hard sales tactics to get people to buy things. And to buy things that consumers may not have necessarily needed or wanted. So there wasn't much of a long-term focus here because think about it. What happens when people buy things that aren't what they want or aren't what they need? How do they feel?
Take advantage of.
They feel like taken advantage of. They're not happy. In today's world, consumers might what? Tweet or post about it on social media. Things can go viral, right? And so in today's world, the selling concept largely doesn't work because these hard sales tactics don't necessarily have the consumer's best interest in mind. And it doesn't really have a long run perspective because here in this era, it was really all about, I don't want to say just one and done, but it was all about the buy. You know, how do we get them to buy? Not really focusing on, will they buy again? Will they share this information with other customers, help us get new customers? And so they really weren't focused on the long spread implication of their practices. And again, it was largely focusing on what they could sell. Focused on what they could produce. We're going to sell what we can produce. Now, the marketing concept era did a flip. And here, the flip was that we are going to now make what we can sell. After understanding customer needs, so this is where marketing research started to take off, is figuring out what are those customer needs and how do we satisfy those needs. And so there's this term called the marketing concept that says marketing aims to discover customer needs and aims to satisfy customer needs. And that is why we have it called the marketing concept era. And so research evolved, and then from this research, firms started producing things that they could sell so that they had value to customers. Customers were hopefully happy because their needs were being met. They would hopefully return again or share with others about their great experiences with a particular product or brand or service provider and bring in more business. Now, the era in which we're in today is the customer relationship or societal marketing era. And this is the idea that it's not just a one and done anymore. Instead, we want mutually beneficial relationships with customers so that these customers keep coming back or they bring in new business to our firm. Oftentimes, the value of a given customer is not necessarily how much they buy, but how much new business they bring into your organization. For example, this would be in a service provider context. You know, I have 2 boys. I don't plan on having 10 kids. So while there are other people I know that have many more kids than me, I'm not really a high value customer when it looks at transactions at the clinic, right? But I have recommended my doctor to at least 10 other people who have joined Auburn who now go see that particular provider, okay? And so there's perhaps more of my value as a customer stems from my referral value than my actual transactional value, okay? I don't know the math behind that, but that's just my guess, right? Because now I'm bringing in 10 new people versus my 2 children. Odd example, but I figured it was relevant. So customer relationships all about focusing on mutual benefit. There's benefit for the firm, but there's also benefit for the customer. Because again, it's getting back to that value equation that we talked about. We are producing products or producing offerings that have value for customers. And again, many more firms nowadays are becoming more concerned about the societal implications of what they offer. And the research tends to show that firms who focus on ethics, who are thought of as being very ethical, usually experience financial benefits, meaning they tend to be more profitable or have strong financial performance. Now, as a result of these two eras, another term you might see in popular press is this idea of being customer-oriented, or a firm might be called market-driven or market-oriented. And ultimately, all of those terms mean the same thing, that the organization focuses on the customer, okay, which is what's happening in the era in which we live in now, okay? And there's been numerous studies looking at, does it matter? What if we compare firms who have a market or customer orientation compared to other firms that have less of an orientation? And what research tends to show is that there are several benefits to having a customer orientation. So this was one article produced right here in the Journal of Marketing, which is a highly regarded journal in the field of marketing, that looked at linking market orientation to organizational performance. Okay, so think like firm sales, okay, financial performance, okay? And this is just one model, and I don't want you to get wrapped up in the numbers or anything like that, but I want you to think about this conceptually. What these authors showed is that firms who have a market orientation, meaning they have a rich understanding of their customers' needs and wants, they tend to be more innovative. They're creating new products that align with customer needs, and so then in turn, customers tend to think that they're of higher quality because, again, when our needs are met or our expectations are met, we tend to make more favorable judgments. And so customers tend to think the products are of higher quality, and customers tend to be more loyal. Now, loyalty can have different meanings. You can think of loyalty as referral value, like are you referring other customers to the organization? Is it based on, how much someone's buying, or that the particular brand is top of mind, or the first brand you think of when you're choosing or needing to buy something in that category? So sometimes I use the word preferred brand. So loyalty can be thought of in various different ways. But ultimately, that drives organizational performance. Okay? So there's several things that happen, or several things that can explain the effect of why a customer or market orientation impacts firm performance. Here's another model that looks at some long-run effects of being customer-oriented. And I had a couple of examples most recently that I was going to talk about, but I guess we're going to have to save it till next week because it's 12:15. So we will end here today, but homework assignment for you is to read the syllabus and complete the team preference survey. If you want, chat with some group members or folks around you if you want to work with them, but please, again, complete that by Sunday so that we can start creating groups, and hopefully I can get those to you by the end of next week. Okay, have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday.
Thank you.